happening is a hard word to use because it in and of itself is well, it's a very nuanced subject. If you want to talk about it, like
no, I know.
Yeah, so happening, we've constrained
Abraham Lincoln,
at least in English.
Shot.
We've constrained a lot of words to being timed.
Right.
Yeah.
So the ending ing.
So make another word. So just
make up another word. Blurzelflurb. Abraham Lincoln getting shot. Blurzelflurb is just as real.
All right, roll the intro.
Evening, officer. Is something wrong?
Don't worry, son. Routine traffic stop. We got reports of someone driving under the influence. You know anything about that?
Oh, wouldn't it be me? I'm only under one influence.
And what would that be?
The influence of Jesus.
It's time for Under the Influence.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Under the Influence, the official Christian Influence podcast. I'm your host, Jude Crane, joined by my favorite co-hosts,
Levi Thiessen
and
Jerry Crane.
Welcome back to episode, this is 17, season 3. We've been doing this for a year and a half.
Yep.
13 years.
13 years we've
Once
been doing
again, all
this
your
podcast.
words are lies.
All my words are lies. Welcome back to Under the Influence podcast, where all my words are lies.
For those of us listening, for those of you listening, today we're recording where we've been recording often, which is upstairs above our catering kitchen and warehouse and kettle corn production facility. So you might occasionally today hear some loud noises occasionally, or maybe voices in the distant background, because there are actually people working down there today, where maybe typically there's not.
Balupa.
Not just because they're working, because the catering business we've had actually employs, every employee is underpaid and works roughly 60-hour weeks. So sometimes they start singing to nullify the pain and monotony of their jobs. And
Like
so,
coal miners.
Yeah, it's pretty rough down there.
Or Oompa-Loompas.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, there just are people working down there. So, like, I think a couple weeks ago, you heard a loud crashing because someone was washing dishes and dropped
Someone rammed the catering van into the warehouse.
yeah, so just wanted to get that out
Dropping
of the way.
a glass drink dispenser
On an employee's head.
on an employee's head.
There's full-blown revolutions
During
in the
a
downstairs kitchen.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we just wanted to make sure you knew about that, ahead of time.
Beforehand.
Yeah, but we're excited that you're here.
How about that? How about afterhand?
After everything's over, be like, oh, by the way, all those sounds you heard were our servants.
No, I just mean, why do we say beforehand? Where did that phrase come from?
What about
beforehand?
Yeah. Beforehand? Before there were hands.
Like,
not
what
what it
is the
means.
hand? Like, is that the moment?
Why only one hand? Why not beforehands? Was the guy that made the phrase
What about
lame?
the 5 hands?
That would be, I think you're thinking of fingers. But 5 hands.
But 5 hands.
5 hands on your butt.
But 3
The
hand.
guy. But 3 hand?
But 3 hand.
But
The
3
3
hand.
hand.
I like that one.
Yeah, you would. But other than that, how's your week been, Levi?
Oh, it's been.
How?
How?
I know it's been. How?
It's been.
Yeah. Not much. Just I had that stupid podcast episode that took a long time to edit because there was a lot of problems with it. Yeah. But everything's good now.
For those wondering, he's talking about Of Lore and Legend, episode 4.
Yeah, when it came out a week late and a few hours short. But
A week late, but only a few hours short.
yeah.
Of Lore and Legend is our real play D&D podcast for those curious. It's also available on every platform that this is. It's cool. You should listen to it.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
I voice a cripple, diseased man, and Levi plays a 3 foot tall, a 3 foot tall dwarf named
Bingo.
Michelangelo.
Oh, Michelangelo.
How is your week, Jerry? Anything that you experienced that you haven't already shared with me, your brother that you live with?
Anything that you need to share with me?
Did your dog die?
I killed your cat
What?
all those years ago.
What?
Well, actually did it this week. All those years ago, I traveled back in time. So I traveled back in time now, yesterday.
Nice.
I traveled back in time now, yesterday.
Nice.
Dude, it's time travel. Nothing has to make
The
sense.
listeners will never know the ethereal fabric that Jerry weaves to try and steer the conversation in places that we want it to go. Hey, speaking of time travel,
What about it?
do you believe in it?
Do I believe that it exists?
Do you, well,
That it exists?
that it well, if it ever
That it's
exists,
possible?
then it does exist. You know what I'm saying? At least
First
in
of
my
all,
view.
I said this last week. I do believe time travel exists. And I
No.
experience it every moment of
No,
every day.
no, you don't. Stop.
I've experienced
Stop
it my
No.
entire life.
That's such a youth leader. Hey guys, I can't think of one right now.
But
I
I'm
can't
not
think of an
saying it
example.
like
Hey
that.
guys,
What I'm saying
you know what
is-
else does time travel? Jesus sacrificed all the way back then for you today.
And that sacrifice
Travels
was forever.
Yeah.
And it travels time.
It traveled.
It travels time.
Traveled.
No, it travels.
Does it? Did you know it also went backwards? I never think about that. It's like, of course you know
it goes backwards, as
but
well,
like,
yes.
I just didn't think about that.
I mean, that was what everyone was like. All right, this is until we get the actual sacrifice.
Yes, but it's just cool.
So your question,
Do you believe in time travel? How about going back in time?
do I believe that it is possible?
Yep.
No.
Levi?
I don't think that God would allow that. Not to put words in God's mouth.
That's not.
Not to limit his ability. Obviously he could.
Obviously, he could. Well,
I'm just
he does.
allowing us to
I mean,
do it.
he's outside of time.
Yes. Obviously
Well, maybe.
because he was before time.
No, we can't say that on the podcast.
He was before time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't make him outside of it.
God?
Yeah.
Dude, you're saying real heretical things right now.
Am I? I think a lot of people you look up to would disagree with you.
Wait, what are you saying? That God is not outside of time?
Yes.
Okay.
What does that imply that is heretical?
That he is not bound by it is what I would imply by him being outside of it.
I don't think he's bound by time. There's a difference. He's not.
When I
Constricted.
contemplate being within time, we are constricted by it. I do not believe God is constricted by it.
I don't think he's constricted by it at all.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying.
I just want to say he's outside of it.
Okay, do you want to elaborate before we lose all of our listeners?
There is nothing about the omnipotency of God that is taken away by him being inside of time.
Okay,
That's all I have to say. And if you can think of something, then sure, I'll discuss it. But I can't think of anything that would.
is this an independent thought you had, or is this something you heard from somebody that you trust and you're willing to say it?
It was an independent thought that I had and couldn't justify, and then someone I trust justified it.
Okay, well then that's fair.
But I'm not dead on this hill. I just have yet to hear a good explanation for why he's outside of it.
Can you explain to me what that means?
So in the same way that saying God can't sin, is that putting any bounds on his omnipotency? Yeah, that's the right one. Omnipotent.
Omnipotency.
Yeah. Well, I get him confused because I'm not very intelligent.
Well, if you're not very intelligent, you shouldn't be saying things like this.
No.
No.
Yeah, there's no bounds put on him. He can still traverse it. But when God created the universe and he went from a state of not, I mean, frankly, a state of, there's no good words for it because it's not doing anything. There's no doing because there's no time. He went from a, ooh, real quick.
Let me look this up.
No, it's just to get an author's name. Really great guy, best theologian, at least my favorite. William Lane Craig talks about the
best theologian.
not the best. He's pretty rad and cool, and you should read his book On Guard: A Defense for the Faith. Might be screwing up the subtitle there, but it's a really, really good book we had to read in high school. It's a theological book. William Lane Craig talks about how personal of an interaction it has to be for God to go from a state of, for lack of a better term, not doing at the creation of the universe to a state of doing. And he then sets in place time. And then, for most people who believe time is this linear A theory, so like the past no longer exists, the future has yet to exist, and the present exists, God had to have then done something, creation of the universe, and then pick any other thing God has done after the fact. Those two things couldn't have happened at the same time. So God had to do something and go from a position of like intemporality, I can't think of the right term, but at being outside of time, to then putting himself inside of time, doing something and one thing after that, which is a measurable two things happening. So there must be some not passage of time, but some being within time. Because if those two things happened at the exact same time, then they didn't.
I always have this image in my head of if you're thinking linearly about time, that God is just looking at it, or, at times can look at it, right?
Yeah.
And then sees it all, and he's manipulating it.
Well, that's the problem with literally. Like, okay, he's manipulating it. How? By willing it into being?
Willing what? Time?
No, the things that he's doing, like the way he's manipulating time. He's going from a state of not doing it to doing it, or else it never gets done.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
There is some level of going from to going to or doing, or else it never gets done, or else it never has been done. There is a level to which God has put himself into a state of doing, which is inact. They're putting him in a measurable thing that is this thing to this. And that is scary to think about, but it in no way takes away from the power.
Why is it scary to think about?
Well, not from, it is a scary idea to hear for a lot of people, because anytime you say measurable and God in the same sentence, they go, well, you're taking away from God's power. Like saying God can't sin is a scary thing to hear, because then lots of people will go, well, that's not true, because then how can he be omnipotent if he can't do this? Well, it's outside of his nature. It's completely in act against his own nature.
Yeah.
You're saying God can sin with a sinless nature? It's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Time is funny, though. Because in another view of time, where all of time, the past exists still, the present exists, and the future exists still, and past, present, and future are just humanity's way, or really conscious, how our conscience.
So there was a train downstairs.
How our consciousness tries to understand the difference between this and then this and then this, just instances of things happening. That's how we have come to understand past, present, and future. Really, the B theory of time would suggest that the past, present, and the future all exist, and we are just a lateral screen moving through it. And that's how our understanding of it derives.
Oh, this is a known theory?
B theory.
It's called the B theory?
Yeah. It's widely accepted.
The B theory?
Academia, yeah.
That's the one you like, right?
I like it a lot.
Because it says that time is like a picture book.
Time exists, and any passage of time is just human consciousness trying to understand it.
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. I obviously don't think that there's some force in the ether that is this time force that is like going.
Time force.
Yeah.
Time force.
I think that time is like the way that we, understand instances, right? Like you're saying?
So you think the past still exists? Abraham Lincoln getting shot in the back of the head
is happening right now.
Happening is a hard word to use, because it in and of itself is
Right.
Well, it's a very nuanced subject. If you want to talk about it,
No, I know.
Yeah. So happening, we've constrained
Abraham Lincoln,
at least in
being
English.
shot.
We've constrained a lot of words to being timed.
Right.
Yeah.
So the ending ing.
So make another word to just
Make
describe
up
it.
another word. Blurzelflurb. Abraham Lincoln getting shot. Blurzelflurb is just as real.
So-
It's hard.
Abraham Lincoln, like freeze frame, the moment, why do we pick
Is
something so
Wurzel
terrible?
Flurbing?
Huh? Abraham Lincoln
You have to add an ing though, Levi.
is being
Yeah,
shot.
that's what I did.
No, why? Why'd you have to add an ing?
No,
Wurzel
but-
flurbing?
because-
You did. You
yeah,
added
yeah,
the problem
yeah,
with
because-
English to the
because I
made-up
had
word
to.
to circumvent the problem with
The
English.
reason Jude is trying to come up with something else.
Abraham Lincoln is being shot.
You couldn't have picked
As we
anything else.
speak, just
As we speak, again, you're then measuring it to another instance.
no. I know.
My head hurts now again.
Abraham Lincoln is being shot. Perceivably, a couple hundred years ago.
Couple hundred years ago.
Yeah.
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 Wait,
But
what,
at the
what-
same
what
time-
about
A
that?
couple hundred years
What did I say that was?
No, but at the same time?
Yes.
I'm confused.
That's
So
the whole
B
point.
theory
It
is
makes no sense to
really
me.
inconsistent. Well, no. Its understanding is super inconsistent because I have to be dead right now if B theory is right.
I've always thought that about you.
I have to. I know. I've got these horrible bags under my eyes. I look dead. I have to not exist, and exist dead all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which fails the law of identity, which is two things cannot be the opposite thing at once.
Yeah.
Unless you're using a little thing, this horrible thing that I am not going to pretend to understand, but I kind of do.
Quantum physics.
It is quantum physics, and it's specifically like Schrodinger's law or something along. It has something to do with Schrodinger because it's
His cat.
you can be two things at the exact same
No,
time.
you
Two
can
opposing
like
things.
intellectually, like something can be understood as two things. I think like something can be accepted as two things, but it cannot be both things.
Well, it is.
But it's not though.
Sure.
So that means if everybody understands something to be something, then it is something.
No, I never said that.
Because isn't the whole
I'm not
Schrodinger's
saying
cat
because-
thing like the only reason the cat is both alive and dead is only because of the inability to know for certain which it is.
What I am referencing is a certain law or understanding of like metaphysics that the name that escapes me has Schrodinger in it, but it is not the experiment about Schrodinger and the cat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Schrodinger's experiment about the cat is an understanding of quantum physics where you're measuring like a quark, I believe, and the way it's so small, it can only really move one of two directions, and the way we see it, it disappears and reappears. But then sometimes quarks in relation to another, I'm probably screwing this up a lot, this is just my armchair like understanding of it, will disappear and then reappear as if it moved in two completely opposite directions. And it's impossible. And so then at the smallest level of all observable anything, something went into there was like two choices presented, and it'll sometimes choose one, the other, or both, or neither. And so then at every scale bigger than that, that's where the whole like multiversal theory comes from. That, well, if something at that level can choose two completely opposite choices, or one or the other, or neither, or both, then like there is a universe where this quark moved in this instance, and then you keep upscaling it to where I chose to wear pink pants today, and then I chose to wear no pants today, like the universe we live in. And so you can scale it from the very smallest.
No pants Jude at church.
No pants Jude at church.
That's the universe we live
canon.
in.
No, it's not the universe we live in. That's a possible universe.
No, that's
I
the universe
am
that
not
you
wearing pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, he isn't.
Don't picture it.
It's smelly.
Well, now that you said that.
It's
You're a
worse than you
monster.
can imagine, so just don't even try.
Okay, well. I have really small ankles and calves. It's terrifying.
No, Jude has massive ankles, but real chicken legs.
my
You know, when Jude walks around, his feet just look like he's wearing Yeezys when he's not.
oh. Gross. I like to think that B theory is the way time works. All of time exists at once, and we're just passing through it.
It's a nice thought.
It is a nice thought. It's the right thought. It's truth.
Does that take away your free will?
You know what? I am dying on that hill.
So
reality.
all of time exists at the same time. Creation.
Time exists.
Sorry.
So
Everything that
does
has
that
ever
take away
happened.
your free will though?
What?
No, I'm just asking.
Why would it?
Because if you've already made your decision, then when we're flying through it, is it you making the decision or is it just the culmination?
You're
I'm making
insane.
the decision right now. We just aren't
but
there yet.
future exists. What will happen already exists.
You don't
is what you're
disagree
saying.
that the future exists.
Yes.
No,
In
but
this,
what will
I'm
happen in the
saying-
future already exists. So does that
Yeah.
just not mean you're riding the roller coaster of whatever will happen to you?
You're still making
but
the
it doesn't matter
decisions.
because what will happen
The-
to you?
every
this is kind
argument-
of an ethereal what will happen to you
to
only
justify
because it's what
free
you were
will,
doing.
all the arguments work regardless of what theory of time you look at.
No, yeah. I'm just asking.
Because obviously then Jude couldn't just sit and do nothing and then those things experience, but then those things are being experienced because you're sitting and doing nothing.
Tomorrow you will choose what to eat for breakfast or you'll choose not to eat breakfast. That doesn't take away your free will. The choice will happen. You will make that choice, and you, in my outlook, already have.
In my outlook,
You're just not there yet. It's very condescending. You're just not there yet. Sorry. You will understand what I'm saying. You're just not there yet.
I don't like to think about these sorts of things because I do for a little bit and then they just end up making me mad in my brain.
In my brain.
You know, like this is where I feel more and more like the two of us as brothers. Sometimes I think I'm kind of smart and then, or at least smart enough. And then I have some things maybe that I'm educated on or I can understand. And then you talk about stuff like this, and then I think about it. I'm like, okay, usually when Jude talks about things that are a little bit over my head, I can at least catch up and like try and wrap my head, or Jude can explain it to me and I can understand it and I'll wrap my head around it. And then, but when it's things like this, and I don't know why, it's where I just feel like, man, I really am the like bigger, older brother, you know, like the one that's just like larger physically, like the stereotype, you know, and the one that's just dumb.
Everyone who's listening who knows a semblance about like, you know, physics at all or Schrodinger's experiment is like tearing their hair out at how much I've butchered everything I've
Oh,
saying.
I know.
About how
But it's just like
stupid you are.
I'm trying
I just
to
can't
like,
find the right words. I do understand a lot. Like I've literally read so much about the difference between A and B theory. I just can never retain the vocabulary to explain it properly. Which there's an argument that maybe I don't understand it if I can't explain
the
it.
interesting thing about what I was saying was obviously I end up feeling like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to wrap my head around it, but it doesn't bother me at all. Because then I remember how much I don't care.
Yeah, how much it doesn't matter.
Not out of just like flippant, I don't care. It's like I go, oh man, this is the kind of stuff that's so inconsequential that if I really wanted to, and sometimes we have sat for like 3 hours at a time and just cyclically gone back and forth and yelled at each other about it. And then I go, man, it doesn't bother me at all to not. It's like, because there's certain times and places and things where I want to wrap my head around it so much and I will not stop until I can. But, and you know this about me, I'm the one between the two of us that can much more easily be like, I can't wrap my head around this, so I'm just not going to.
I have to understand it.
But there are certain times where I feel like I have to understand it or I won't be able to move on. But these are the types of things that just like, you know what? I don't understand it, but life will not change whether I do or not.
But it's so fun to think about.
Yeah, it
to
is.
try.
It is. It is fun to think about.
I think the B theory of time, everything exists. We're just passing through it, so to
Man,
speak.
you take after Eve a little bit.
Eve?
Just wanting that knowledge.
Yeah. No, you love to bring up how like,
Especially in your
knowledge.
figure.
Yeah, the chasing after knowledge is so dangerous.
Oh, no. My whole thing with that, I don't
do
like
think that.
how divisive that it can become for people to like discuss these kind of things and get mad at each other and like.
I don't
have
think people are
other-
actually getting mad at each other over time.
I'm sure that there are in certain.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I'm sure that, well, no, you just said two different things. You said, I don't like how much they are, which would imply I think it happens often. And then you said, well, I'm sure that there are.
Well,
which
no,
would imply
it's
that like
for
somewhere
this
out there.
specifically, like it's out there, but like there are many of these types of things where it's about something that is entirely inconsequential to our everyday life, and we will never know one way or the other, or the third option that we don't even know about, or however many options there are.
the knowledge that
for
you
whatever
don't know that you don't know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much bigger than the knowledge that you don't know.
It's just very. It's something that's inconsequential, and we don't need to ever know. And I don't like how much strife that certain subjects like that
I
bring.
agree wholeheartedly. The issue that I see is that
people don't agree with you.
99% of people that I've met that adhere to that belief, there are like two groups. There are groups that will say it's completely inconsequential, and so you shouldn't it's ridiculous to get mad at it. We can never know it. But then they will have a hill that they die on that they absolutely say, no, this is the way it is, on a subject that's inconsequential. And then you'll attempt to have a conversation and try to say, well, I believe this about this inconsequential matter. And then they go, well, it's 100% this. And then if you try and argue with it, it just becomes, but it's an inconsequential matter. Well, then why do you have a belief?
Well, no, I
on
think
it?
it's because there's a fine line in life about understanding that you will be wrong often. And so being willing to talk about things, even the things that you are very, very solid on, or that you believe wholeheartedly, right? And I don't mean to say, like, I don't like it when people say this, I'm just seeking to always be challenged. Like the people that are like, here I am, contradict me, that's kind of cringy. But like, I do think it's important to be like, oh, I 100% could be wrong, and I'm willing to talk about it. But then it's this fine line between balancing that and also like being certain sometimes, right? Like believing.
Yeah.
I mean, why are you looking at me so confused? Is this nothing where I'm saying something stupid?
No, I can be confused. Jared, I don't understand metaphysics. If someone explains it to me, I'm going to be confused. That doesn't make sense.
I thought I was saying something. So what am I saying that's confusing?
I don't get what you're saying.
Okay. What I'm saying is, I don't know. Forget it. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm not
You were
certain
saying
that I
two
understand.
things, and you were saying that you don't. What were you even saying before I started talking?
There are two groups of people that I often see arguing. One says,
oh, yes,
this, will say what Levi's saying, but I think a little more intellectually dishonest. Like maybe they're not honest with themselves because they'll say what Levi had said about trying to understand everything about matters that really aren't like non-salvation issues. They don't really matter. There are the people that will try to understand all those issues.
Are we bleeding into like spiritual discussion too here?
Well, I think what you said encompasses
that was something
spiritual
I was
and
going to
non.
bring up. Is like what Levi's saying. I think applies most truthfully to like, or most wholeheartedly to like the issues of the church, right? Not just like time travel discussion.
No, yes.
Yeah.
But what you said, literally, it also covers like the time travel stuff. And what I'm saying is spiritual non-salvation
I don't think it
issues.
does cover time travel stuff. Because
What? Because all Levi said was,
because I've never experienced.
Because okay,
I mean, not because
so
I haven't
for me,
experienced. Doesn't mean it's not true.
For me, when you guys were going at it for 3 hours yelling, like ranting to each other about
is this
the time travel
about
thing.
time travel?
But Jude and I agreed for the most part during that discussion. It was you that we disagreed with.
We disagreed with Levi on can God sin?
Yeah,
which
that
these
was
were
the-
both the same night.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was the
both
same
the same night.
conversation.
Separate arguments, though.
Yeah, but I just got so like I just lost it took so much energy out of me
Right.
to like be in these kinds of long conversations where because it comes to a point where one side like won't listen or the other side like no matter what it is, like people will eventually get to a point where either they start to agree, they agree to disagree, or like they're like, oh, I'll think about your side, you'll think about mine.
Yeah.
Right? Getting to that, I find a lot of times can be really depleting for my energy personally, and I don't really get anything out of it at a certain point because, like, I mean, it's interesting to think about, but when it just becomes like saying the exact same thing over and over to get the other person to like try and understand what you're saying, I don't get anything out of it, and it really like I don't find like the usefulness of it after a certain point.
No, that makes sense to me. What you were saying earlier was that it was like divisive. And the only thing I disagree with is like that conversation we had. Yeah, it was so exhaustive, and I understand what you're saying. And I think I agree. I mean, like I can say I experienced the same thing, maybe not as quickly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Levi.
But that conversation, the thing about that with me is like I don't think after that conversation we were divided in any way.
You weren't saying it was divisive. You were saying you were displeased with how divisive people let it become. Right? Yeah. So which applies to
I just
non-salvation
thought
issues
I wasn't
and
seeing the
stuff like time
connection
travel.
to that example because I didn't think that was something divisive and like it sounds like these are two separate issues. One being it's pointless, right? Because of how emotionally and energy, how much it drains you, which I agree with. And then this other idea where these sorts of conversations can be divisive. And the example didn't really match what was being said, at least in my mind. But no, I get what you're saying.
Because it's not that the things are divisive. It's that people make them divisive.
It's that when people do what you're saying, right? This long-winded
and
drain
also,
of emotion.
Like
that
a lot of these things can
regardless
be
of what the topic
divisive.
is, that is a divisive thing to do.
Like you can, in certain circles, pretty much any argument can be divisive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think what you're saying, or what I'm understanding, is that regardless of what the topic is, right? When topics that lead to this type of conversation that's just long-winded and drains emotional energy, that practice ends up being divisive.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like maybe this conversation's getting there.
Yeah.
It felt like it was there a little bit ago.
Yeah. And I don't know why it has to be.
It doesn't have to be. No one's saying that it has to be.
It just seems like it doesn't. Like it just definitely doesn't need to be. I think we all agree.
About what?
Whatever we were talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
What I was trying to say earlier is you were talking about there was those two camps, kind of, right, of people that say that it's, like let things go, or we don't need to understand things.
Yes.
And it can almost become flippant or whatever. And then you have another side of things that are saying everything has to be figured out or whatever. Or you have to, like, you were saying that there were people that say that they're not going to have everything figured out, but then have weird hills that they die on anyway.
But have objective beliefs about something. But anytime it is challenged, it'll just become but this doesn't matter because it is but then why do you have, like, I keep cutting myself off because I know what I'm saying, but obviously the listener might not. People will have objective beliefs and hills that they'll die on about whether it is a non-salvation issue or just a random issue like time travel. They'll have these diehard beliefs, and then when those are challenged, their only defense is really that, well, it doesn't matter anyway because it is either a non-salvation issue or it is time travel, which doesn't matter because it's not even real. And then the other side is left saying, then why do you have these objective beliefs about said issues? And it usually just becomes cyclical because they say, well, the evidence that I understand will point to this, this, and this, and this. And you'll go, okay, well, now we're just back to having an actual conversation about it.
I think that's fine, though, to have that position, to just have the belief because you think you have evidence for it, right? And there's nothing disproving it. And if somebody's trying to talk to you about it and you give the opportunity for discussion, and then once you realize, oh, we're getting to this cyclical kind of discussion, right? Then going, because
the cyclical discussion, from my experience, always comes from not both parties. It's always one. It's either the person saying, this is the evidence that like they both are bad at arguing or having a conversation in general. Because I think it is 100% a bad thing to believe in a non-salvation issue and then not be able to defend it. And your only defense is when you come back to, oh, well, it doesn't matter because it's a non-salvation issue.
I guess I was saying.
And most often it is people who have these beliefs about non-salvation issues because of the environment they were raised in.
Yeah.
And that is their entire justification for believing in it. Not scripture, not what any evidence actually black and white points to. It's just because, well, that's what I was raised in. And then if you have oppositional points, those don't matter because it is a non-salvation issue. Yeah. And what bugs me is that people in that camp,
all I was going to say, I enjoy listening to both sides of the argument, or like however many sides there are. Like understand, like just what they are bringing to the table. It's interesting to know because like with a lot of these things, I'll listen to a bunch of it and I'm like, okay, that can work, that could work, that could work. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, I like this one the most, so I'm going to think that this is the way that it actually is.
Yeah.
Without having like, this one is more grounded than the other ones. Because it might not be, and I just prefer that style of thinking about
because it's something that you can admit, like
because it doesn't actually matter, and it's something that we'll never actually know. But where I get drained from it all is when somebody has to, like, when the other person either doesn't understand where the first person is coming from, or won't, like, will force themselves not to, and then it makes the other party have to either keep saying the same thing, trying to change the way that they're saying it, and then the other person twisting their words to try and understand, and then it just becomes like a
Yes.
shouting match of not understanding what the other side is saying to an extent.
I'm terrified that you're saying that is a good defense.
I'm not.
Non-salvational issue, an issue or an idea or a topic that does not directly affect whether you are saved or not.
Also, I'm talking about I'm talking about things that aren't even spiritual at all when you're just discussing something that is inconsequential.
Sure, inconsequential doesn't mean that there's no answer.
That's not what
Doesn't
I'm
mean
saying.
that there is no right or wrong answer to it.
I'm meaning
Sometimes
whether you know the right or wrong answer to an issue. In this context, to me, when I'm talking about when I say inconsequential, it's something that the right or wrong answer or the understanding of right or wrong answer doesn't mean anything. Like won't impact your life, won't impact anything about you.
Okay, even still, doesn't mean that there isn't a yes or no answer.
And that's why I'm saying
Some things are black and white.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
my
saying that
issue-
it would mean that it doesn't have one. I'm saying
Yes.
whether you understand it or not doesn't matter.
The issue I take is when someone is in a conversation, whether it's an argument or not, has a set of beliefs that are fundamentally either not logically consistent with their own set of beliefs,
Yes, I understand.
or are presented with an argument that establishes those beliefs as wrong. Like mathematically, you dissect it and you go, okay, well, all the evidence we have, black and white, sometimes it exists, points to you being wrong. And then they go, in face of that, their only argument is, well, it's inconsequential.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
I think
I
that
don't
is.
disagree
I don't
with
think
you.
you should do that with anything in your life,
I don't either.
regardless of how consequential it is, because though the topic may be inconsequential, that form of thinking is not
No,
inconsequential.
I agree with you. I wasn't saying that you should do that. I was just simply saying that when things are inconsequential, I think it is okay from the get-go or after discussing it and realizing to kind of cut it off at the pass so you don't get to a point where it's a cyclical discussion of two people just trying to make each other understand or whatever. I think it's okay to kind of interrupt that while it's going on and go, this is something that's inconsequential and I just can't understand it. And I don't think that this is going anywhere and it will not impact me if I stop trying to understand it. Right? And obviously I think there are some really, really important spiritual things that if you're discussing, you should try and understand them. I'm just saying when it comes to discussions, like I guess we were using the example of time travel, right? And somebody's trying to make you understand and you just can't understand it. I think it's okay to stop that discussion and say, this is something that's inconsequential, which doesn't mean to say that there is no right answer or no wrong answer. There may be a right or wrong answer, but because it's inconsequential and I can't understand it, I don't want to keep continuing this issue. That's all I was saying. Now, I know what you're saying is something totally different because you're saying that you don't like when people have concrete things they believe in and then they use that as a defense for somebody talking about their concrete beliefs or trying to understand them or whatever it is. But
do you believe those people should still believe what they had?
the people that do I believe? Sorry, explain what you're saying.
Because when you say inconsequential,
Yeah.
it means it has absolutely no effect on their life or whatever. But they have this concrete idea. And then they have a discussion. And that concrete idea, with all evidence laid out, seems to be wrong.
Right.
What should they then do?
As long as they're not being ignorant and just being and like flying in the face of evidence and saying, I don't care. If they honestly just can't understand it, right? We're talking about something inconsequential. So the idea of time, the idea of is time linear or is time all existing at once, right? Let's use that as an example. I can't understand things if we don't use examples. I'm sorry. So when it comes to that, and let's say you're talking to me and I am a firm believer of linear and you've laid out all the proof of why B theory is true.
Yeah.
And if I'm responding to opposition to my position correctly, which means I'm not just shooting it down and I'm not just saying it's stupid. I'm not just refuting it for no reason. And then I just go, I just can't wrap my mind around it. I don't think there's anything wrong with me then going forward and going, well, Jude really does believe B theory is true, but I just can't understand it. And it's inconsequential. So I'm going to keep believing A theory is true. I think it would do you and me a greater disservice if I just said, because Jude so fervently believes in B theory, and yet I can't understand it anyway, I'm just going to believe it. That is a really dangerous mode of thinking.
No,
because if I go throughout the rest of my life and go, well, this guy, he's so passionate about it. He laid out all this evidence, and I cannot wrap my mind around it. I cannot wrap my mind around even the most simplest portion of it. And I know there's some biblical things that you could use here, right? Because we can't understand everything about God.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I should then keep believing what the Bible tells me to be incorrect, right? I'm just talking about inconsequential things because obviously something about God would not be. I don't think it does I think it does more of a disservice because then that person could get into this mode of thinking throughout the rest of their life where they're like, well, just because somebody's passionate about it and they laid out all this evidence that I don't understand, but they said it's evidence, I'm just going to believe them. Then it's
that's
just
how cults happen.
yeah. That
My side doesn't want that either.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying for the layman,
Yes.
in this situation is me. I 100% am not just going to believe it because my brother is so passionate about it and believes it to be true.
Yeah. No, you shouldn't. It's like saying, yes, if you lose an argument, you don't just believe the opposition on basis that you lost. Yeah. What I'm asking is it okay for you to then go in an argument where just because you don't understand the dismantling of yours, should you just remain saying, I believe in A theory? Now, yes, Jude explained B theory. I can't understand it. He's very passionate about it.
Yeah.
He's clearly making some kind of point, but I don't get it.
Like right
So
now.
I'm an A theorist. Is that cool?
So I'm an atheist.
Atheist. So I believe in the A theory.
I thought the
It's
question you just asked me,
as dangerous as going, I don't understand Jude's argument, but it seems like he just may have just
here's something funny. I'm going to exhibit exactly what we're saying right now because I thought what I just answered your question and then you repeated it to me. So I don't understand what you're saying, but it's inconsequential. So I'm going to move on.
Moving on and remaining in your set of beliefs is a difference that I'm making. Outside of all of this, theoretical blah, 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 you don't really have a diehard A theory or B theory on time.
I couldn't care less about that.
Yes, I don't really have a diehard. I like B theory. I think it offers, the only reason I like it is because I like thinking of fictional universes, and I think it's way more.
I like it in that context.
Yeah,
but
I think you could make way more compelling and not just like repetitive stories with the B theory of time than you can with A theory.
I think that's cool.
Now, in the theoretical situation where we do
what?
We do like care, or you do have a theory that you believe in. You believe in A, I believe in B.
Okay.
We have a conversation. You can't understand my explanation of B, whether it be on yours or my fault. You then, it's an inconsequential matter. I'm going to continue on believing in A.
I see the logical inconsistency there because I just admitted to not being able to understand it in this hypothetical.
Yeah.
Admitted to be like, I can't understand it. So I'm going to fervently believe this. Obviously, I think that's kind of dumb.
That's just as dangerous as going, I don't understand.
And that's not what I'm saying
I
should do. I'm just saying, like, if that's what I already understood and it is inconsequential, it seems fine. But if I'm going to then go preach it or whatever, that's stupid.
No. Who cares about preaching it? You still think it's okay to believe in the A theory?
If I understand the A theory, but I don't understand the B theory?
No.
Dude, what's happening right now is exactly what we're talking about.
I know it blows me away that we're not connecting on this.
And this is what Levi was saying. You are so blown away.
This is the stuff that just like...
I don't know why Levi has such a problem
I think
with
there's
it,
a third option.
But I do understand that the conversation is going nowhere.
You should neither believe A or B theory.
That's fine.
Right?
Okay.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is you are blown away that I can't understand something in the way that your brain understands it. And this is something that you and I have discussed repeatedly ad nauseum, is that my brain works very differently than you. And I'm not trying to be...
You can understand.
I'm not... Listen,
you can, and we can get there together.
I'm not trying to be a hippie fruitcake for a second, but I will. You think differently than I do. And this has always been an issue between you and I. Because when you were trying to... It's usually you trying to explain something to me, or you're frustrated with me for the way I did something. And it's because you can't understand the way I think, and I can't understand the way you think. And then we talk for a very long time, and you get to the point where you're saying the same thing over and over again to me, and I still am misunderstanding it every time. And then I'm at least trying to participate and respond, because at the very least, I don't want to do you the disservice of writing you off, right? And so I hate to say this, I'm entertaining it. I'm entertaining it. I'm letting you go and it's not because it's not because I'm better than you.
I'm listening. I'm waiting.
And it's not because I'm above you and I understand.
I know that.
more.
You don't have to offer me the filigree.
I'm offering them the filigree.
Oh, okay.
It's only because I don't get it and I'm understanding that I don't get it, but I'm still at least trying to fake conversation so that I can offer you some semblance of respect. But when I've said a few times, I don't get it, I don't think I'm going to get it, let's move on, you come right back to it and keep going.
Hail Mary, one last shot. I thought of the analogy.
We're only 45
minutes
minutes in.
You're going to get it. You're going to get it. Okay.
I'm going to get B theory, or I'm going to get this stupid ethereal discussion of how to understand whether you understand B theory or not. Because this
has nothing to do with time.
Hang on. Matt last week was so right. This discussion was such a mistake. It's got to be the most boring thing
I
ever.
told you multiple times it will only result in us arguing.
No, I don't think we're arguing.
We're definitely. It's not malicious. It's
No.
just. It's
I actually
still
don't
arguing.
even think we're arguing.
We are.
Okay. This is the funny
We
thing.
definitely
Here's
are.
something funny I want to explain to people listening. And hopefully explain to Levi, because I guess I don't think he understands it, even though you know us for a very long
Let's
time.
start attacking.
I'm not attacking
I know.
you.
I was a joke.
This is something that people around Jude and I, and around my family, don't get sometimes. And it's that Jude and I, this type of conversation, the way Jude and I are talking to each other, and I never even think I have to quantify or qualify it as being a type of conversation, is apparently very foreign to many people. Only because Jude and I talk like this to one another a lot, and then people have quoted us talking like this and told me that we were fighting.
We're not fighting.
We are not fighting. And has said it's arguing, which I actually don't even consider this
It's
arguing.
definitely arguing. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's
Nothing
just
wrong
because
with it.
my entire life arguing has had a negative connotation.
It's not bad.
I
It is an
understand. So
argument.
fine, if it's an argument, that's fine. But then Jude and I can go from this, and Jude and I can be completely normal afterward. And that's where I think people don't understand. Like, I was talking to an employee in the catering company about how the way my dad and I talk to each other, and he was really, really bothered by it. And he was like, it ruins my day when I just hear you guys fighting all the time. I'm like, we don't fight all the time. And he quoted a few discussions we'd had. And I guess you could maybe chalk it up to being argument, but it's the type of argument and discussion that at the end, when it's done, I don't think anybody was being rude to each other in the discussion, whatever. It's just because we're animated in the way we're talking. And then when it's done, it's like we both forget the discussion even happened, not because we need to forget it because it was bad and we're like trying to forget it. It's just because it's just the way we talk. And so like that's why when you were saying what you were saying about it, like it really bothering you, it makes me wonder if it's just like the way Jude and I talk to each other.
No.
Because
So
at the end of it, when it's all done, it doesn't have any impact on our relationship in any way. It's just the way that we talk to
I don't
each
want
other.
this to get lost.
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
were trying
saying.
to say something
I'm just
that
saying.
I didn't want to hear.
The reason that time travel, I'm going to make this super concise because you can understand it. You got this, man.
Right. No, I don't want, you need to stop saying I can understand it. You can hope that maybe I will.
You can.
But stop saying I can.
You can. Also, for
'Cause remember
listener,
who
if
I
it sounds
am
like
in-
we're
in the-
fighting,
in
it's because
the
we have a
two of us.
deep-seated hatred for each other.
The two of us as brothers, remember which one I am. I'm the big dummy.
You constrict yourself by putting that label on. You are doing just as much what you don't want me to do.
Because I fervently believe I'm not, but then I'm proven time and time again that I am.
I'm going to make this super concise.
Go for it.
Time travel was, being joked about, being talked about, and then it was
Right.
reintroduced for the sake of being analogous. Because you said, almost verbatim, I can't understand it unless we have an analogy or an example.
I just said I can't understand what you're... Because the reason I said that is only because we were talking, and then we were talking about us talking. And I was like, okay, we got to get
that's
away from
philosophy. Yeah.
It's just,
It's beautiful. I love it.
I also like to think I love it. But then when I do it, I realize that I get left behind.
So listen.
Yeah.
What I am presenting has nothing to do with time travel. It has to do with how you, in the broad sense, should handle your beliefs.
I know.
Yes. There's nothing to do with time travel.
I know. We used it as an example.
Yeah.
So I was there with you.
So now we're getting into my analogy for understanding information. This should be super great. Is because we live on an earth. This is the analogy.
on Unearth?
I'm going to make this concise. Starts
Levi,
with,
I'm
we
going to
live on
bite
an
every
earth.
single one of your toes off. Every single one. We live on a planet, and nobody knows. Nobody's been to space.
What?
Whether the planet is a cube or a circle, right? Two guys meet. I'm a cube head. I'm a circle head. And then they go
Jordan
at it.
Peterson's a circle
but
head?
they're actually brothers, and they love each other very much.
Not a globe. He's a circle.
I'm a cube
Cain
head.
and Abel.
And I am a globe head. Sorry, sphere head and cube head.
There you go.
There we go. Both
Now we're talking about three-dimensional.
Yeah. Now,
Because that would be a really
Cube head.
fun conversation.
Cubehead says, I've been raised with a set of beliefs that the planet we live on is a cube, and I'm very passionate about this, but I recognize in the great religion, once we die, the shape of this planet has no effect.
This is a bad example only because I wasn't talking about spirituality being the reason it's inconsequential.
We can remove spirituality.
But no, I don't want that's it feels like a bad soundbite. But go ahead.
Let's remove religion. No. In the grand scheme of things, shape of the planet doesn't matter.
In
Shape
the
of the
grand
planet.
calculus of the multiverse.
In the
That's lovely. The shape of the planet doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the cube head.
Okay.
And the sphere head goes, sure. Yeah, in the great scheme, it doesn't matter. But I believe the planet is a sphere. Yeah. Let's have a conversation. And they both agree to it.
Ooh, okay.
Now remember what this analogy is for. It's about how you should and should not process information and adhere to certain beliefs.
Yeah.
You understand it so far, right? Is that a genuine yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I understood all of this up until this. You didn't need to go
Up until
into
this next
The
part.
cube head goes, I was raised with this set of beliefs, so I believe it's a cube. And the sphere head goes, okay, well, math exists. And we can look at, by the way, water interacts with the surface of our planet, the shape of the planet, how spinning things operate on the planet, and how gyroscopes operate. We can take all this information and we can take measurements at this point on the planet, at this point, and on this point, and we can fly from this point to this point to this point. And from all of that information, mathematically, it has to be a sphere.
Yeah.
And the cube head goes, and the cube head's intelligent. And he says, sphere head, I can understand that you're making a point.
Oh, this
And
is
the cube,
such a
and
straw man.
it is a straw man to get you to understand.
Because I already understand. And
You understand it now.
No, not now. I understood.
Because I'm not done. Let me finish. Just let me finish.
And I have agreed.
Just let me finish with the analogy. The cube head says, sphere head, your argument is so elegant and I understand it. And also
Clearly
you're
the
so
sphere head.
attractive and tall and handsome. But sphere head, I've had a long day maybe. I'm not understanding exactly how all these points, and maybe I understand the individual points, but I'm not understanding how they all come together to prove that the earth is a sphere. And sphere head goes, all right. I still believe it's a sphere. And Cubehead goes, all right. I still believe it's a cube. Now, do you think in this example that Cubehead should go A, B, or C? He should go A, I believe this planet is a cube. B, well, his argument seemed intelligent, but I don't understand it, so I believe it's a sphere. Or C, he made a compelling argument that I didn't understand, so I should not die on the hill of the planet being a cube or the planet being a sphere. I will instead take this topic and research it further.
Oh,
What should he do?
that was never brought up. Yes,
That's
of course.
exactly what
No.
I was saying about
And
the
also-
people. Just let me finish because I'm not done. That's all I was saying about the people.
Yeah.
They should neither, it's just as dangerous to adhere to those same beliefs that you only have a foundation of because of your knowledge. It's just as dangerous to do that as to adhere to a different set of beliefs just because they provided an argument that was compelling or uncompelling.
Yeah, of course.
You should then, if presented with an argument of any sort, go, let me rationalize this and try to understand it to the best of my ability and never cease until I understand it fully.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that.
There's the Jude we all
And so
know.
we agree. I was just trying to make sure you understood. No, that last part was
We
facetious, yes.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Up until the point where I think you just put too much importance on the person now having to center their life around understanding something.
I never said center their life.
You
I
just
just
said they
said
should
the last
never
part.
stop.
I just said what I said before you even said I just said.
I know.
What did I say? The last part
This
was
is a joke.
facetious.
So then what is the reality there then?
The reality is,
them just
I
going,
was
"I'm
just
just
trying to
gonna
make
look
sure
at
that we agreed on the point that you shouldn't adhere to either. Because
obviously.
from what I
That's
heard
why
when
I
you
said
were
it was
making,
a fine
just let me
line.
finish talking. Because from what I heard when you responded to me was that you had walked away still believing a theory, even though the person made a compelling argument you didn't understand.
Yeah.
When you should neither adhere to either theory, you should then get to a point where you can at least understand why you believe what you believe.
Here's the thing.
And we agree on that.
You should if you believe at all. I don't. Like, I'm the person.
Yeah. We were
believe in
arguing
time.
from
That's
points of
why
view.
I was trying to tell you. I obviously agree with you. My point was only that this is something that doesn't matter to me, only because I'm the person in the example that isn't even in the example. I'm the person that doesn't walk away.
Yeah, I know. We were
"I'm
never
gonna keep
arguing
it."
with each other.
Yeah.
We were arguing from
I
the
know.
points of people.
I know. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just don't think it matters.
I just don't want the listener to think it's a good idea ever to adhere to a set of beliefs because either you were raised with it or you heard an argument about
certainly not.
Yeah,
I
because
was
it
never saying
sounded like
otherwise.
it was pointing that way.
No, I was not saying otherwise. That's why I tried to clarify earlier that there's a fine line between believing things and being willing to change your beliefs.
Yes.
And what I was trying to get at was that fine line, I think, is seeking understanding for why things are believed to be certain. Like, if you believe something to be a certain way, trying to understand why you believe it might reveal that it's wrong. But when you try and understand why you believe it, then you can at least back it up.
Yes.
So that's what I was saying, is remaining firm on things that you believe, if you believe you have the reasons to back it up. And then at the same time, those issues and others being willing to be like, I actually could be wrong, and I don't really know.
At least to my understanding, the analogies do a disservice because, two people can have this complex interaction that we just unraveled about a non-salvation issue. And then someone could walk away going, well, I was raised with this belief and I'm going to still believe it. And that's not the dangerous part because it's a non-salvation issue, whether it's about tongues or spiritual gifts, they can walk away with that belief. They could be wrong. They could be right. That doesn't matter. It's the idea of accepting information or accepting that certain things are a certain way with no justification, only
I
because of your
understand,
previous understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be
That way
applicable
of
for
processing information is dangerous.
Yeah, and I agreed from the
Yeah.
very beginning. Like, we talked about that. To be applicable for a second, I mean, this is something that we've been talking a lot about because in the Bible study on Saturday nights we've been going through James, and it was just talking about treating certain people differently, and then that conversation, because it was talking about favoritism or partiality in James 2. I think it's James 2. Yeah, James 2, 1 through 13. And then we were discussing,
I'm sorry.
we were discussing no, we were discussing like the ideas of like the American church culture and stuff like that, and how people enforce them almost as doctrine in certain churches. Such as like the way you dress in church. Obviously, I think the way you dress in church, if it's an issue, the only time it should be an issue is because you're dressing in a way that like the Bible in life would say is inappropriate, right? And then I think there is something to be said about being respectful. And so like maybe wearing something nicer to church. But it would like the discussion came up about like, people wearing jeans or not wearing, like nice suits and ties and things like that. And how some people, or having long hair or not, right? And like for guys.
Yeah.
And then like if that becomes a stumbling block for somebody, or a stumbling block that they are creating for themselves, right? Because they make it this doctrinal thing. Like, well, the Bible says if you have long hair, then you are not, giving examples of godly leadership or things like that.
The
right?
Bible says men shouldn't have long hair.
So all of these things, we were just talking about that. And so it's just interesting to have this conversation, but,
that is a perfect example of a situation with so much nuance, because is there a way you should dress at church? Yes. But then people will wrongfully say, and it's this. Mm-hmm. When the conversation kind of ends, is there a certain way you should dress at church? Yes, respectfully. Not, yes, it's khakis button-up shirt. Because like in the Bible, the example of long hair, he's saying men should not have hair long as a woman's because of the cultural implications of that. For the same reasons that when it's said that men shouldn't wear dresses, men in Scotland or Ireland aren't sinning by wearing kilts, even though it fits the description of then what a dress was, because it is a cultural thing. It doesn't, masculinity in those areas where people are wearing those is not, taken away from or malformed by wearing kilts.
There's obviously constants about masculinity that exist. And I think putting on a flowery dress, regardless of culture, I think that kind of flies in the face of some of those comments. Yeah, it's just an interesting conversation and that we had, and the one of the things I find most interesting is you have people that say things like, "You have long hair, Levi."
Why did you point at Jude?
Yeah, you looked and pointed
Well,
at me.
because I've been pointing at you the whole time, but I looked at you. Well, because I was about to say you have long hair, and as an example, we were going to pretend with Jude, and then as I was saying it, I remembered that one of us here
That
actually does.
I have hair.
One
down
has a
the
That's why
buzz
at
cut.
the
One
end
has
I
a lion's
abandoned
mane.
the example and I made it real. No, like to some. Let's pretend that I'm like I believe that you're sinning and you should not be allowed to be on this podcast. You should not be allowed to be in a position of any Christian leadership, whatever. And it's really affecting me. No, and I say you shouldn't have that. You need to cut it off because it's bad. And I start quoting, the verses in Corinthians or whatever about not allowing another brother to stumble. I'm saying like, you're making me stumble. You should not be making me stumble. I'm like throwing that in your face. Right. And because I find that is something that comes up often when it's dealing with issues like that. It's like, well, you're a leader and you're making me or other people stumble because we think this is wrong.
Biblical, but not
Dude,
scriptural type
it
of
goes
thing.
both ways. And this is what I find interesting is by you making a stink about it, like to the rest of the church body or to the rest of the people around you, and making a stink about what this person's doing, and you're claiming that they're making you and other people stumble, you are now creating division and making other people stumble.
You have become the stumbling block.
And the point is they're entirely they're entirely blind to how they are becoming a stumbling block by propping someone else up as one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the person that says Levi.
I don't know the way I said that.
The person in the congregation that says Levi is sinning by having long hair. Once they've said that,
Or at the very least, they may not be saying something so extreme as sinning, but they're saying he's a poor example of leadership.
yes, you have just forced everyone that Levi knows and you know and that knows you both
To take sides.
to take a side.
Yeah.
And you've just cut right down whether or not it's the middle.
And this is where what you were talking about earlier about really despising those
Yeah.
inconsequential things that are divisive.
Paul also calls people to, if you have like these things that aren't important and having these discussions and arguments, don't have them in your sanctuary where you're having 50 people on either side yelling.
Don't
at
have
each
them
other
on a podcast where 100 people will hear it.
because you'll have people from outside of the faith looking in and being like, "Oh, that's a house of discord," and like,
Yes.
they're against one another. Why should I join that? We should have these conversations and things, but they don't necessarily need to be in front of like,
When they're real arguments too, like
and make them into
and
something
also
that actually
he's talking about like when they're things that someone's making accusations about something being unbiblical or not.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I agree.
And like this one now, like, I mean, I understand that you guys do this.
Just keep banging. The
Yeah,
table.
and I just keep banging on the table. I understand that you guys have like this is the way that you are. It's when I get involved that I like for your kind of thing. Like this, I like sitting on the sidelines laughing at you guys because I can understand both sides of the argument and like why you guys like.
Well, this is why I
talking
don't
about
think
two
that was an
different
argument.
Oh,
because
well,
that one was
an argument.
You think it was
Your discussions.
Sure, discussions and argument are largely the same thing.
that says a lot about Jude.
That's a bit. That's a joke.
Yeah. Just
Stroking your goatee.
yeah. Sure. Yeah.
And that's also why if you have a problem with someone, go to them first.
Yeah.
And then, if they don't listen to you, bring a couple more people, and then you have a discussion. You're not just like, "Hey, you're a bad man. You need to leave the church." And then they're like, "Oh, well, I can't say anything back about that.
Right.
Goodbye." Have a discussion, and then, if you feel like it's not working, then have a bigger discussion with like elders and like spiritual leaders if it's something that
It's much
you
more
feel
for-
is a big thing.
And when you go and you have, like, I just really think people need to have a little more perspective, though, is kind of my point, too.
Yeah.
Especially when they're going to elders and things, they need to maybe ask themselves, like, oh, man, is this just something I'm personally convicted about? And then think about those verses where it talks about personal conviction. And it says, if you're personally convicted about eating meat that has been sacrificed to idols, then don't do it. But this person is not. And it's not what saves them. So then you just move on. You can take it to your elders and talk to them about it. But guess what? I would certainly hope that if it's a situation like that, your elders might say, hey, this doesn't matter. But I mean, probably with a little more filigree. But like, you are personally convicted in this way, so don't exhibit that. but they are not. And we believe that what they're doing isn't wrong.
It doesn't matter what vehicle Michael uses to travel through time. It's still a theory, so stop talking about it.
Full circle, baby. Like time, a circle, an Ouroboros almost.
An Ouroboros.
An Ouroboros almost.
Ouroboros
Let me explain time travel to
We
you.
were joking about you making a Jordan Peterson voice when you did the globe head or whatever. And then you did like Irish people.
Yeah.
Well, it's famously known that Irish people is the largest community of people that believe that
That believe in
planet
the
is a
cube world and
No,
sphere
both
world.
of your people. I thought you were like, oh, he's setting up an Irish person to argue with Jordan Peterson.
No.
And then both, it's like you forgot how to do Jordan Peterson. You were just like, here's two Irish guys arguing.
I was just waiting for somebody to come up with the dinosaur head to be like, I believe that the world is shaped like a dinosaur.
Are humans never
Both
existed
like,
with
you're
dinosaurs?
insane, get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have an argument like that, just find someone who is laughably wrong that you both can agree is laughably wrong.
This is something we just recently talked about.
And then you can
that I
put together.
despise.
This is
The
a real
whole
thing?
Alex Jones thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to be an argument.
No. Obviously, I'm not.
I'm going to make it one.
Well, see, this is your problem. No, about like if two
If you
people
haven't noticed,
disagree,
Jude is a
I really don't
contrarian.
like when they just the way that they resolve their disagreement so that they can be friends still, or so that there's no animosity, is just by finding the person that they're like, we can both agree this guy's crazy.
Making it
I think
a
that's
more
a huge
nuanced
disrespectful
scapegoat.
disservice to that person.
Yes.
Whether or not what they're saying is crazy.
Hey, at
I
least we're
just
not
think it's
Westboro
disrespectful.
Baptist Church.
Because then what it does is it builds up this, whether culturally, because that was why I said it's the
Yeah.
Alex Jones thing, because that's a huge thing where all of culture now completely writes one person off as being crazy and everything, whether he is or not. I think it does a huge disservice to him because let's say eventually he gets things straight. Well, he has had this huge thing built up, not by him, but by everyone around him, by making him the scapegoat all the time, by whether the people that he politically aligns with, spiritually aligns with, and the people he doesn't, all kind of making him, writing him off as being the one that's crazy so that they can all get along. It really does him a disservice if when he does get things right, or if when he finally does shape up or change, his entire life he's been completely disregarded. And now it's like, now it doesn't matter. I just think it's sad.
It is sad.
I think it's sad because, I mean, I think there's been an example of that, case in point. That's why I said it's the Alex Jones thing. Whether you disagree with him or not, or whether you agree with him or not, I should say. And I certainly don't agree with him on everything. And that's not me using him as a scapegoat. I'm just saying I don't agree with him on everything. There was a long period of time in our country, or just in like political discourse and stuff, where it's like conservatives and progressives or whatever were at odds constantly, and they obviously still are. And then there was this weird kind of phenomenon that I experienced many times, even from myself, where it's like, well, I know what I'm saying sounds crazy to you, and we're getting it, we're at each other's throats about it, and what you're saying sounds stupid to me, but at least we can both agree this guy's so dumb. And then it's like, yeah. No, we don't have to fight anymore. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
at least I'm
now-
not saying that the chemicals are turning the frogs gay. Oh, wait, they are.
Yeah, it's like, because in high school, there were a couple times where I literally said to somebody that I disagreed with, well, it's not like I'm saying chemicals in the water are turning the frogs gay. Now, regardless of whether or not that's been proven to be accurate, it does a disservice, I think, to people like that, because then the entirety of the country all kind of like builds up this thing about this one guy. And then look at him now. He's been in a court case where everything, was built up around him as lies. And it was all because of this idea that he was this much bigger thing that we can all agree is totally evil and ridiculous, when in actuality, I just don't think he was getting
I think it's only wrong when it's... I don't think it's wrong. I think it's only wrong when it's done wrongfully, which seems dumb to say, but let's pretend...
It seems so dumb, it seems profound.
You've got the cube heads and the sphere heads, and the cube heads go...
Dude, this needs to be like a fictional...
Dude,
like
I have it
two
in my
games.
head.
The cube heads go...
I've got
They
the
have
We
cubes
believe-
for heads.
I can't do Jordan Peterson on command.
Especially when you've mixed it up with Irish people.
Yeah. What does Jordan Peterson sound like? Just give me a bit so I can do it.
Ideologues. I don't know,
You're a
dude.
bunch of ideologues.
There you go.
See, all I have to do is say
The cube
say
heads.
it.
The cube heads go. We're at least we're not this big idiot over here who's going. I believe that the planet is in the shape of a velociraptor.
Yeah.
Well, if the guy is saying this planet is the shape of a velociraptor, it rains Skittles, and I am God incarnate.
If he actually
I
is
think
crazy.
all the cube heads are allowed to go, even in a conversation with the sphere heads. Listen, I'm not Velociraptor head, all right? Ah, Velociraptor head spazzing in the corner. I'm not Velociraptor head. And so is there an argument to be made that with the knowledge that an adult possesses about the current political climate,
Wow.
if you're going to make a bunch of ridiculous statements, the negative repercussion is you might become that guy. And that's your fault.
I understand. I'm saying there's a little bit of onus or responsibility in both parties. The individual who's saying crazy things, do not do that. Now he's caused a problem for himself, but also a little bit of grace from everybody around him to not entirely disregard them so that later, instead try and fix the problem that guy has rather than allowing him to stay in this hamster wheel of craziness so that you all get your scapegoat for as long as possible. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, and I think maybe we just disagree.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Do you think it's better to let a person who's wrong stay wrong and crazy so that you can have a scapegoat than
We
to try
both
and...
completely agree that there comes a point where someone is so fundamentally rooted in their wrong beliefs and refuses to change that you do go. Pearls to swine, I believe is.
Oh, certainly.
Sorry. And I think
I just
no
don't think
names
that
in particular,
everybody-
Alex Jones, very, very early on. I also think personally, from what I understand the situation, and I've done a lot more than I think people give me credit for, Jerry. No, I think Alex Jones has some serious, unresolved mental issues, which is not to say he has serious, schizophrenia. He just has significant emotional issues that he hasn't resolved.
Oh, I 100%.
And I think he is culpable for a lot of the things he's said, even when people reached out, including people from places like the Daily Wire, who talk about how they've reached out to him, and he was just in his hamster wheel, and they went, "Hey, we've got some delicious hamster kibble out here," and the hamster stayed in his wheel. Then you got to be like, all right, wherever that wheel spins off to, the hamster's in it.
I agree about letting him go.
Yeah.
I'm saying I don't like if everybody that opposes one another, like these two sides, because our country exists in these two fervently
Polar.
opposed sides, right? I don't like that when we can agree on nothing, and then the thing we agree on is not just allowing the hamster to keep spinning and be crazy, but also then piling on said hamster. How does that help said hamster? There is a hamster over here who is rabid and mad and saying things that make no logical sense and might even be offensive. And we can, for the first time, conservatives and progressives can agree on something being offensive, right? Okay, boom, we agree on all that. And then it's but also, we're going to push him farther down. I think that's not Christian.
I realize 100%. We agree on a theoretical. We just disagree on the real life, actual Alex Jones. Yeah. Every theoretical thing we're bringing up, totally agree.
Yeah.
And then I'll bring up an allegory that's just Alex Jones, and I disagree because
you and I,
Alex Jones.
and I think that's fine.
Yeah, I do.
My point is just that if Alex Jones is that hamster, I just don't like that. That you have these polar opposite sides, and that their whole relationship is that we can never agree on anything. Great, okay, if that's the truth, then don't. But then it's all of a sudden we agree on this one thing. This guy's crazy, and we're going to put all our crazy on him. I don't like that. That's just.
And if he is the crazy hamster,
Let him be crazy, but don't put more on him.
yeah, I don't think you should. And maybe I don't think that's what people did. If we're actually,
We can disagree on that. That's fine. But I
Yeah.
think we both agree that we shouldn't just put more on.
you think he should walk free, I think he should be hung. There's we're allowed to disagree on these things. I don't think that about Alex Jones. I actually feel very deeply sorry, especially for the amount of money. But I think there's going to be a retrial.
Part of why I feel so bad for him, I think there will be a mistrial, yeah. Part of why I feel so bad about him is because, what you were saying, is because you think he's emotional. I agree that there's some things about him that he's emotionally unstable. He needs to get some things figured out, and he's got some issues that need to be addressed. And actually, from my understanding, he's taking a significant break from everything right now. I think and he said he's I'm going back to church. I haven't been to church in a while. I think that's huge. What I don't like is if he is going crazy or whatever, it's just, not letting him do that, not letting him, not like writing him off as if he's already so far gone that he can't be helped. So not even offering help, not allowing others to offer help. It's just this like, let's just pile on more. He's too far gone.
Once again, yeah, totally agree.
And no, what I feel bad about now though is it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. This is kind of an nauseum, but
yeah,
I feel bad for the guy. You know, I feel bad because he does have serious issues, and now he's got what I consider a much larger recompense or punishment for something he did wrong than is suitable, and so now it's just piling on and piling on and piling on. It'd be even harder to see him change.
I don't think they charged him enough.
I want 300 billion.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to touch your foot there. 300 billion?
That was a joke.
Yeah. But I will say this: I do love the way he put, and I think you might disagree with me, but I do find it so funny the way he's like, I committed a horrible act. Let's say we agree on that, and he's like, so you tell me I'm getting the death penalty. All right, I'm getting the death penalty.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then he's like, so you tell me because of what I did, you're going to kill me, and I go, okay, kill me then. And then you go, we're going to shoot you 10 million times in the face. And then he's like, but one will do it. And you decide to shoot me 10 million times. Because that's kind of what happened with him in this trial.
Is it a very funny analogy?
That you disagree
Is
with.
it a good analogy? Who's to say? Not this guy. Actually, this guy. It's a bad analogy.
I think it's funny.
Because I think there's a level of, there's a dual responsibility. Keeping the people who are struggling with certain things that make certain decisions harder for them to make, helping those people, right? Helping the Alex Jones. If he has some emotional imbalance he needs to take care of, we help him with it, right? We don't just let him run wild. Is he still capable of making the right decision? Yes. Is it a little bit harder? Yes. That's why we help him. There's also a level of responsibility where you recognize the world is this way. That hamster is on the edge of the dresser. The room is on fire. The room shouldn't be on fire. We're working on putting out the fire that is the room, the world. But that hamster's on the edge, and he can see the fire. If that hamster jumps...
I understand, yeah. There's a level... That's why I said it.
If the entire world reacts to certain offenses and overreacts to certain offenses, and it's been that way for 10 or 15 years...
My point is just to kind of call out some of the people that I align with for being... I want them to be held a little bit accountable for when they say, like... You've got a lot of like conservative talk show guys now who are kind of coming to Alex Jones' defense and only now doing it.
Yes, that's scummy.
I think it's a little bit scummy when for years they were like, they used him as their
scapegoat.
The
crazy.
And then now they're like, this is a conservative issue. It's not fair. This is happening to Alex Jones. And I go, dude, for like 5, 6, 8 years, you were like, I hate liberals. And hey, liberals, at least we can both agree I'm not Alex Jones. And they're like, it's because like it almost points to like cowardice when they're like, they're trying to substantiate their points and their positions. And then they're just like in the face of adversity and they don't want to deal with it. And they just go like, well, at least I'm not this crazy guy over here. But then all of a sudden now they're like, I mean, yeah, they should be allowed to speak about what they believe to be true. And maybe they've changed. That's great. Maybe then they should talk a little bit about, or make an apology or something about like, yeah, for years I didn't give this guy, or I only pushed this guy further down, and here I am saying, like,
it's just as scummy as using very succinct and one-off cases to platform an agenda you have, where like people are shot and died, like using that case as an agenda you have, where that's what is the word? Isolated event. It's very scummy because you're using people purely to like, And so people who are conservatives and believe in conservative values, but now they're only now coming to Alex Jones's aid. It's just like, sure, you're using him to platform for an agenda you believe in, but you disregarded him for so many years. That's a really scummy thing to do without recognizing it and I think apologizing for it.
So all that's just what I was talking about earlier this week when you and I started talking a little bit about it. But I just think it's sad. The poor guy, I mean, whether he deserves the punishment he got or not, he can only be confused in his life right now because it's like, I thought all these people were against me, but they're not, or no, everybody must be against me because now they're just using me. Like, how does he's already emotionally unstable. How does he deal with that? You have given me a weird smile.
Oh boy.
But obviously it's his fault.
He did the Jordan Peterson voice. He's going to go into bit mode.
Just when I think he's a moron. You don't understand.
That's fine, and maybe he is.
No. I don't think Alex Jones is a moron. I think he is exactly.
But you know what? I'm praying for him.
That's wise.
Because I watched him in an interview where he was talking about all this being done, and he was very emotional about it. And yeah, obviously he was making some funny and crazy sweeping statements. But then, a nice little magic trick over there. Jude tied.
I just did a magic.
A knot out of his headphones cord. No, and then at the end of it all, he was like, "I'm taking a break. I'm going to church. I got to quit smoking. I got to stop drinking because it's ruining me." And it's like, oh, okay. At least he has either somebody told him this and he's just repeating what he heard, or he understands there's some things he's got to fix, and then maybe he returns to it and he's tamer or whatever, and he doesn't make crazy statements, and then he's just focused on the truth, because then it's not mixed in with all the crazy.
Whether the hamster is on top of the dresser or in the fire, if it's genuinely choosing to get off the wheel, yeah, you should help him.
Yes, and that's what I'm
Definitely.
And so, you know what? Even if the people bashed him before, maybe they can apologize for having done that and then try and help him out.
Yeah, he's still a human.
lot of these conservative guys claim to be Christians, so I'd love to see them put their money where their mouth is and serve. So I'm praying for him. I hope he gets a little more emotionally stable, and he focuses, instead of just focusing so much on political division and the way our country is divided, which I think is important for us to stand up and do something about as believers. I think he first has to get into a much better place in his relationship with God.
Anyone who has a shred of integrity should never really pray or hope or praise the downfall of someone with a platform, because unless you are literally, and I don't mean this as like a straw man, widely Satanists or people of the Satanist church will agree on like the meaningless of everything, the complete nothing matters, nothing else. If you have any integrity and you have a certain set of beliefs, everyone with a platform, you should be hoping is not just like thriving or being successful, but praying for them so that they can platform the right set of beliefs. Like Alex Jones has a platform, has a large audience. There are people that watch him and go to him for information and for, a lot of things, how to understand or how to think about certain things. I hope that Alex Jones really shapes out, goes to church, gets a really solid head on him, and can be a positive to all those people that look onto his platform. I think it's ridiculous to praise the downfall of anyone that could significantly impact a large audience of people.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Now, if you don't have a platform, praise the downfall.
What?
Jeez.
Wow.
Another joke by failing comedian Levi Thiessen. Do we have any?
There's going to be like someday we're going to have a Wikipedia page, and there's going to be quotes that are like, these are the quotes that led to their downfall, and it all is you because Jude's just giving the credit for them to you. These things are like, what led Under the Influence to be canceled? A litany of Levi Thiessen
All
quotes.
signs point to Levi.
But they're all actually things Jude said. As we've established in episode 1 of season 1 of this podcast, Levi is the voice of the radicalized American.
You are the radicalized American.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of like level-headed, attractive, going places American.
Wow.
And then
we don't need to talk about what
Jerry's
I am.
the
big dummy.
the Nazi. But
wait a second. Is that what that band you put on my arm was? And you said I should just leave it there?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, hey, I got a really cool facial hair idea for you. It was all a trick, a ruse.
I was like, this looks dumb, but Jude said I should do it, and he gave me a lot of good points on why. I don't understand why those points, but I think I'm going to do it anyway.
When I signed you up for Duolingo to learn German and Austrian, the 2-for-1 deal.
I don't know any German. 9.
Da.
And
right?
da? Yeah.
Da.
Yeah.
Ja.
Da is Russian.
And Beckpfeifengeist.
Beckpfeifengeist. Lederhosen.
Yeah. Beckpfeifengeist is, I don't know why I remember that. I do know why. Because it's awesome, but I can't believe I actually remember it. But I love that so much.
I should say, I have no idea the cultural significance of Beckpfeifengeist.
We've only been told something by someone who might not be trustworthy.
I only understand the literal translation is a face that is in need of punching.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
It
culturally,
could be
a
a
horrible
really
word.
insensitive thing to call someone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
it could be.
So for all the times we said Beckpfeifengeist, maybe we should cut it.
Yeah, if any of you are from Germany or have been there and understand the cultural significance, if there is one, we're really sorry if we didn't know it.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, but
A
let us
Bible
know.
teacher told us that it means. You told me that.
No,
I didn't hear that from Matt or the guy, whoever it is, happens to be my Bible
I know
teacher.
that I heard it from
You told me you heard it from Matt.
Miss Keith.
I didn't hear it from Matt.
Who would you hear it from?
I got it from a list of German words.
Really?
I
Yeah, a meme that was
I've
going
said it
around
to Matt
years
a
ago.
lot. Because I thought he was the one.
I don't ever remember having. I have no memory of Beckpfeifengeist
Jude has no memory.
and Matt in the same like sphere.
That's so funny. In my head, you told me. Matt told me this one thing that was really funny.
No, I
The
read
Matt
it.
I'm talking about is the one that was like the guest we had on the podcast last week.
Yeah, I have no recollection.
That's funny. I was wrong. My bad. My mistake.
wow. It's canon. Jude has no memory.
I have. Who am I?
Dude, I hate to say this. I think this podcast episode was over a little while ago,
Yeah.
but I am dragging it on because I'm incredibly nervous.
Oh yeah.
So
What time do you have
let's
to
talk
be there?
about why
What time though?
Hey,
Do you have to
audience,
be
be
there?
praying for Jerry
Like
in 2 weeks when this comes out.
in 2 weeks when this
in
comes
2 weeks. When this
I'm
comes
just incredibly nervous. I don't do well with Jude. Jude and I have this thing where we just
also might have been racist.
What? Jeez. No. Literally making noises and spinning our hands around. No.
That's what I was doing.
Jude and I have this like description for a specific type of nerves, and it's the before a track meet nerves.
Oh, dude.
Like you're going to go do something that you're like you haven't done, or it's like you're in some way like eyes will be on you while you're doing it or something like that, and you just have this pit in your stomach, and until you get there, it doesn't go away until it's over.
It's not that you don't want to do the thing.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
the
the
other
idea
thing.
that like I have to do this thing, and it's a
Yeah.
kind of a pretty important thing, and it's
my least favorite type of nerves. Not that I have a favorite, because no nerves are good.
nerds.
But and the interesting thing, Levi,
I like
and I'll
having
tell you
cauterized nerves.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you after the podcast. The interesting thing about it is it's not the thing that I have those nerves about. It's not the thing you would expect.
No,
It's not. It's not the thing that you would expect. The nerves come from a different element of it
Oh.
that I think you.
it's not the relay you have to run at the track event. It's which color baton you'll get. It's really weird.
It's not the track event as a whole that I'm nervous about. It's the fact that I'm throwing the discus.
That was a very on the nose last part of the analogy.
I don't know, dude.
But hey, closing
Oh, I
statements.
see what you're saying.
Yeah, closing statements
I'm
for the
going
podcast.
axe
'cause
throwing. I've never been axe throwing
Yeah.
before, and that's the part I'm nervous most about.
Oh.
Yeah.
it's
Just
silly.
don't want to look like a fool.
I guess that's the track event in my mind. Like that's
Yeah,
the thing. That,
yeah.
The only other time Jerry went axe throwing, he buried an axe in the back of my father, and so it's kind of a traumatic event.
Wow. Jude's referencing something from our D&D campaign that has nothing to do with.
Am I?
No.
I didn't think so.
It just sounded like you could have been. No, I've never gone axe throwing before. And when I'm in a situation where it's like I have to do something and there's somebody like teaching me how to do it, because like there's going to be, they call them resident experts, like showing me how to throw it. I know, dude. Also, I have this weird thing about
Been doing
like,
your research?
Whenever, no, it's just on the website. It says like it's like a liability thing. They make sure you know that you are not just walking in there and throwing axes. What was it saying? Oh, I have this weird thing about like whenever something is kind of like new and hip, especially like a new Portland thing, like escape rooms or axe throwing, I despise it. I don't ever want to do it. What?
I'm in the exact opposite boat. I have things that need to happen rapidly.
Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, but
The podcast, like we gotta.
let's wrap this up. Is there anything we want to leave the people with or ourselves with at the end of this, or do we feel good about our conversation?
Spiritual
luck,
or
guy in the
otherwise,
chair.
primarily spiritual. Make sure that you have a really, really solid foundation for the beliefs you have, even if they aren't salvation issues. And if someone comes at you with a compelling argument, sometimes from the get-go, you know they can be wrong because it could be against something the Bible says, but they could still have a really compelling argument, and that can shake a lot of people. And I think rather than have it shake you, I think you should be reaffirmed in going and re-solidifying your foundations in your spiritual beliefs. I think sometimes it's important to lose an argument and have to go back and build around the foundation of your beliefs.
It's not always a bad thing to lose an argument, because then it shows you that the foundation wasn't as secure as you thought it had been.
And as it could be.
Yeah.
And losing an argument never means you're wrong.
Yeah, Matt said something that I find to be incredibly profound one time. It's the only time he ever said something profound, but just kidding. He said believers are often too, I could be misquoting him exactly here, but are often too concerned with winning an argument and not winning a soul.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's something that I try and remember. If there's somebody who, like, especially with Christian influence online in the Discord, when we've got people like we had recently with Nathan or others who come in just to, like, they clearly need help, they're clearly hurting, but they're also making their hurt everyone else's hurt and all this, and we're trying to talk to them, and then it's an argument or whatever, and then it's like, I can find myself getting wrapped up in trying to win the argument or win the altercation, like with this guy who wronged me or wronged other people, like we had with Omega in the past too, right? Like I could be really wrapped up in trying to win that and not instead trying to be Christ-like and see their soul won. You know, so that's something that every now and then when I catch, and I don't always catch myself, obviously, because I'm not perfect, but when I catch myself, those words that Matt said one time come back to me and like they kind of reverberate a little bit. And I'm like, oh, am I trying to win this battle instead of see their soul having been won? But yeah.
Yeah.
See. Da.
Yeah.
See, Poppy.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Good luck, guy in the chair, for having to edit some of that stuff in the beginning. I hope you can make it sound a little more succinct. And everybody listening, we love you very much.
Cut out all the racist bits by Levi also.
That should get about 20 minutes off the episode.
Roll the outro.
I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are.
That's a good one.